Kia ora, I'm Madeline Newman, the Executive Director of the AI Forum for New Zealand, and today I'm very honoured to be joined by some of our nominees for Women in AI Awards. And this is an Asia Pacific award, so it's an international award. The finalists have not been chosen yet, so the women you see before you are nominees, and I'm just going to let them introduce themselves first off, because I think it's important that you hear from them. So, Angela, first of all, we've got you joining us from Otago. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to get here?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. My name is Angela, as you've heard Madeline mention. I am a PhD student at the University of Otago. I have been studying AI ethics in the space of AI ethics. My PhD is in sociology, but basically I've been looking at the impact of AI, or the anticipated impact of AI in the technology that is being designed for primary production in New Zealand. So that is what I'm focusing on in New Zealand at the moment. But at the same time, I'm also working with other teams in sub-Saharan Africa, where I come from. And I am looking at how AI is going to be transforming indigenous societies in the sub-Saharan Africa. So I'm looking at different things with a background in public policy, and also a person who has been very much interested in diversity, equity, and inclusion in technology, and focusing on how inclusivity is happening in those different spaces. So that's me.
Thank you, Angela. And I think you're being a little bit humble there as well. You've also recently been listed amongst the top 100 brilliant women in AI ethics for 2023. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Carrie, over to you. Would you like to introduce yourself and talk about your journey here today?
Sure, thank you. Kia ora. So I'm currently the General Manager for Analytics and Insights at Countdown Woolworths New Zealand. I suppose I've pretty much had a career in analytics in one shape or form or another. But my journey, I suppose, around AI, and I've started as I was growing up. I was incredibly lucky to have two parents that were futurists, I suppose. They probably wouldn't class themselves in any way as futurists, but they were just early adopters. My mum loved her science fiction, Isaac Asimov, Star Trek. And my dad, there was always computers in the house. And he was always mucking around, taking things apart, working out what this internet thing is. And I think I was lucky to be exposed and for that to be normal growing up. And so it started there, and it continues to this day. And my passion for all things data analytics and AI has never been stronger.
Perfect. Hey, thanks. And Sam, a little bit about you.
Yeah. I'm Sam Madanian, Senior Lecturer in Computer Science and Software Engineering at UT. I'm originally from Iran. I've got my Master from UK, Staffordshire University, and my PhD here in New Zealand. Regarding my journey in AI, well, if like Carrie, I talk about my childhood, I was the naughtiest one. And I have two younger brothers, and one of the things that really contributes to my success is my family and my parents. They never differentiate between a boy and girl, let's say. I always have the freedom to choose my major, university, what I want to do with my life, what do I want to study, and so these things were quite important. But sometimes when we are in a situation, we take it for granted, and we say, "Oh, this is normal." But how I started my journey in AI, I started with computer science, and I've started with sensors and IoT. My PhD was also in RFID and sensors, and my main field of research is digital health, how we use all the available technology for healthcare purposes. And what happened is when I started RFID, IoT, and sensors, it's been a few years that its adoption in the society and in different sectors, it's quite improved. So, okay, let's do something and get some application out of all these constant generating data. And this is how I started my journey in AI.
Wow. So it just goes to show it's like not, you don't necessarily have to start out in this field to end up in it. I think there's a few parallels on the panel with that.
Yeah.
And Megan, I know you've been introducing everybody, you've been emceeing today, which is fantastic, but you're here in the two capacities. One is you're the chair of the advisory panel for the Women in AI Awards this year, and also you're the chair of the AI Forum for New Zealand.
Yes, kia ora and thank you for having me, Madeline. I just reflecting on what was being discussed here, a couple of things came to mind. I've got a background in how I got there, and it was actually my study background, or what I technology, it was law and Māori, te tiriti, which is a big focus. And actually something that we do need to be bringing into this AI space or technology space more broadly. But I had a brother, and we actually had two brothers, and they're both geeks, both in very different ways. But I was highly influenced and fortunate to travel in 1999, Y2K bug. I think I mentioned that in the last panel, showing my age. But that was my transition into the tech sector, and having and working alongside my brother for a few years there, who really inspired me around what was happening in that tech space, working across data and building up some core foundations. But more recently, coming back to New Zealand, and understanding the importance of diversity in technology and in our organisations generally, and specifically the Māori pathway into technology and the role that ethics and responsibility play in that has been a real big driver for me, and being involved with the AI Forum where we're advocating for all these things has been really important. So, and I feel very privileged to sit around our executive council with these amazing talents, and it's even humbling sitting here right now listening to the talent that we have in women here in Aotearoa. It's just fantastic. And so promoting this talent is critically important, and that's why we're here today. So thank you, and thank you for letting me jump in on your panel.
No worries at all. Angela, back to you for a moment. So what uniqueness do you think women bring to AI and technology? So thinking about sort of strengths and diversity, what do you see as the core of the importance of having women involved?
Women have a very interesting, okay, let me say something like women live in layers. And maybe just push a little bit back to where I'm coming from, because I am a woman of color, African, from post-colonial Africa, and I am positioned here sitting with you, and we are women of diverse spaces and all that. But I have realized that women have a way of experiencing things. They see tech differently, they experience tech differently, they experience inclusion differently, and they have a way of differentiating the inclusion, because in their different spaces where they are coming from, they have either experienced exclusion or they have experienced a sort of a bias. And why I talk about layers is because the different women who enroll in AI, they will bring their own unique lived experiences in terms of how they experience technology, how they experience different kinds of exclusions in the society and all that. For me, women bring this diverse kind of tapestry where we are talking about our experiences, but at the same time, we are also unpacking the different layers of who we are and how we see things from a different perspective, the perspectives we draw into technology help us to show that, to show the other side of the story, or to show those stories that are not being heard. I personally look at me like I will tell a story as a woman, but I'll also bring the story of tech as an African woman. And I'll also tell the story as an African indigenous woman, so that my three stories need to appear at the same time. They will appear as a woman who is trying to pursue academia in my as an early career researcher. And so women have this kind of thinking which is very diverse. Again, they also bring those other shades that other people or the other gender, the men particularly, cannot see, because men have a way of seeing things, but women have a way of turning around things and also feeling what the other women are feeling, or trying to experience what the other women are experiencing. Thank you.
That's some really good points there, and just coming back to that inclusion point, hugely important, and also the perspective. So we've been talking a lot lately about bringing in the importance of bringing in representation from across our society into our technology space, because if we don't, we'll never have technology that fits us well. Carrie, how does that relate to sort of the work that you're doing from an organisational perspective?
Yeah, thank you. So the way that I see my role, especially in relation to AI, is trying to find what are the right use cases that we should be deploying and using, what are the high impact opportunities. But I have a perspective, but that's not necessarily always the right perspective. And I think what I see as high impact or high value could be quite different from someone that's closer to the problem. And so I suppose from my perspective, I like to bring as many different people into the conversation as possible to solve problems. So we're looking at things from completely different angles, and that's not just sort of from a gender perspective, but it's from a thought diversity perspective, or a how do you experience the organization perspective, including customers in that conversation. I think, to the point around what do women bring in terms of a uniqueness, I suppose I worry that sometimes I talk in stereotypes here, okay? And so but what I notice is that we're collaborators. We're often people that bring people together. We're connectors, we're networkers, we're relationship builders. And in our organisation, in an organisation like Woolworths, Australia and New Zealand, it takes a lot of friends to get stuff done. And I think that's probably the case in many large corporates. So I think that's what we bring, and we welcome that diversity of thought more openly, I think.
I think so as well. I mean, I really get that. And Sam, sorry, from so you're in very much in creating uses for wearables, so, and the data that collects, and the different aspects from that. And that's kind of, for me, that's quite inclusive, because in the past I know that I've worked in sort of similar areas, and we've discounted wearable information as being not scientifically valid. But you're able to use that and bring that, and I guess give some of that data also gives a bit of a voice as well to those that perhaps aren't necessarily heard. Do you have any sort of...
based on what Angela mentioned, she demonstrated very, 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 very great, I would say, because yes, there are different layers, especially when women want to contribute in terms of the application, in terms of the tech. It's not about just the tech perspective. There are different aspects. For example, my main field is about digital health. And one of the reasons that sometimes tech failed in healthcare or any other sector is we just focus on the tech aspects rather than the user aspects, people who use it, how they use it, and what they want out of this technology. This is something that I'm quite interested in, and I try always to explore different perspective, gender perspective, ethnic perspective, different types of perspective. Even sometimes it's about art, to make a technology appealing for the user. So there are different aspects, and for example, especially with digital health, we have patients who use the technology, we have clinicians, doctors who, again, different way of end user, and we have tech developer. So I strongly believe that bringing different ideas, different perspective would be quite helpful to come up with a good technology that be utilized, because the end game is not just coming up with a new technology. We want to solve a problem. We want to have an impact or deliver value to our community. And this is something that I believe diversity, including women, including people with different ethnicity background and educational background, would be quite helpful.
Mm. And Megan, you're a big advocate for inclusivity and resulting in equitable or equitable use, equitable access for all. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
No, I just want to reinforce everything that's been said, because the point there is, at the end of the day, we've got to design equity in what we're delivering. And the best way we can get that is by having everyone on both sides of the equations, because irrelevant that we're talking about delivering technology, there's people behind it, and those people behind it are delivering to people on the other side. So it's really around connecting those dots. So we need that fairness of equity, fairness of understanding we all have different positions as well, and the starting point for our users and consumers is not the same. So we've got to design tech that's actually going to cater for a better positioning and that equitable outcome for everyone. And we can't do that if we're all the same on this side. Yeah. So really, I think that the key point that everyone's talking about, and I'm actually humbled that we've got this talent in Aotearoa doing this kind of work, bringing this diversity of thought into how we design tech. The other thing I would mention as part of people being in that process is that we need the processes there that are going to allow us to do that. It's great that we're sitting here having a conversation about it, but our organisations need to say, so what's my process for ensuring that we are going to have that diversity of thought? Where's my process around design that says, I have consulted with Māori, I've consulted with women? Where's that process around looking across our text to bring in that capability, whether it's with a developer, whether it's the way in which we're having conversations with our vendors, whether it's the way in which we're having conversations with our people. So they're all elements of ensuring that we're bringing that equity in there.
Thank you. And I think, and Angela, bringing you back in here as well, there are lots of different pathways into technology and to get that inclusive voice. Angela, from your perspective, what sort of advice would you give to other women of any age wanting to get into this field and wanting to be included in that conversation?
From where I stand, I see most of the time women have really dominantly been users of technology without necessarily caring where this technology is coming from, how their perspectives are captured in the technology, and how they basically benefit from the technology, because many times we think we are actually benefiting, but we are not. One of the calls that I would make is that women would come in and join in different spaces where technology is being designed, or where technology is being conceptualized, or where frameworks that concern technology are being designed or formulated. I'm currently in a co-design team where people are coming up with technology, but they have also brought different teams together and all that. And one of the things that I noted dominantly in my research here in New Zealand is that we have very few women in that whole big team of over 20 researchers who are dominantly men. And so it tells a lot that women are not being found in these particular spaces. So women need to engage in design. Women need to engage in questioning, in raising critical questions about how technology is being designed, how it's being adopted, what are the impacts, and looking into the issues in it, the social issues around it. Because basically, when technologies are doing their design, they are mostly guided by scientific objectivity. But where do we bring the other side of theorizing of social problems so that the social problems in technology can also be identified? And that is where I think many women need to come on board. I also need to see women bringing perspectives in terms of policy, because if we are not represented in decision making and policy frameworks that are going to guide regulation as well as how technologies are going to be designed, then our voices as women are going to be missing dominantly in those spaces. So those are some of the key spaces that I would like to see women taking lead from young age and talking more and engaging more, not just using technology.
Thank you, Angela. And Carrie, have you got just a few short words on what advice you'd give somebody coming through the education system at the moment who wanted to get involved in this?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Have a passion, find your niche, take action, and then grit. Passion and perseverance over the long term. Go for it.
Excellent. Hey, thank you all so much for joining us today. I think it's been an amazing panel.
Thank you.
And best of luck.
Thank you.
Kia ora,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Bella.